Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking a monumental shift, the total electrification of transportation. We're going to talk about the massive restructuring required for our national energy grid and how some seriously innovative tech is actually bypassing grid bottlenecks right now on the ground. It's basically this fascinating collision of two massive industries that historically had almost nothing to do with each other. The way we drive and the way we power our world, it's about to change forever. Okay. So here's our roadmap for the day. We're going to start with the electric transportation revolution and the heavy lift the grid is facing. Then, we'll talk about vehicles acting as mobile batteries, which is super cool. After that, we'll dive into the immediate charging bottlenecks we're seeing, check out an off-grid solution that's happening today, and finally, look at how we are wiring our energy future. Let's get into it. Part 1. The electric transportation revolution and the paradigm shift in American mobility. To really wrap our heads around the scale of this transition, we got to think about the sheer physics of moving people and freight across the U.S. I mean, mobility is the absolute backbone of the American economy, right? Every single year, vehicles transport 18 billion tons of freight. 18 billion, and they move people more than 3 trillion vehicle miles. Because of that massive footprint, the transportation sector eats up a staggering 30% of total U.S. energy needs. And historically, that immense demand has been met almost entirely by petroleum, over 90% of it actually. Because we rely so heavily on fossil fuels for this, transportation actually just passed up electricity generation to become the single largest source of carbon dioxide emissions in the entire country. But we're shifting away from that petroleum baseline, and we're doing it at lightning speed. Just look at 2023. 1.2 million electric vehicles were sold in the U.S. That grabbed an 8% market share of all new light-duty vehicle sales. And honestly, that's just the tip of the iceberg. With almost all vehicle manufacturers planning to go completely electric within the next 10 to 15 years, we are staring down a future where tens of millions of EVs are going to be hitting U.S. roads in the coming decade. Part 2. The grid's heavy left and the collision of two massive sectors. So this rapid EV adoption means our electric grid suddenly has to adapt to support a massive new load. If you look at how energy flows in the U.S. based on Department of Energy data, transportation has historically been heavily fueled by petroleum. There's just this incredibly thin sliver of electricity actually going into transportation. For over 100 years, residential and commercial demands shaped our power grid, while cars and trucks operated completely independently. They were totally separate worlds. Well, that era is officially over. For the very first time, these two massive economic backbones have to tightly integrate. They are on a direct collision course right now, and this requires a total top-to-bottom reassessment of how the electric grid is designed and operated. Because think about it, without serious modernization, dumping the load from tens of millions of new EVs onto the current system could cause severe grid reliability and resilience problems, especially out in rural and underserved communities. Part 3. Vehicles as mobile batteries, redefining the electric vehicle. So how do we prevent the grid from just totally buckling under all this new weight? Well, the Department of Energy envisions a complete paradigm shift. We have to start viewing vehicles as mobile energy storage devices, and that starts with something called VGI, Vehicle Grid Integration. It's exactly what it sounds like, the intelligent integration of EVs with the power grid. The goal here is to perfectly harmonize the car's transportation mission with the infrastructure's power delivery mission. When we get this right, VGI benefits everyone by adding serious resilience and economic parks to the entire country. Now, because EVs are typically parked and plugged in for long stretches of time, we don't actually need to charge them at full blast the absolute second they plug in. This brings us to V1G. Through V1G, we can actively control when and how fast cars charge. This provides essential stability services, things like peak shaving and load shifting. It basically smooths out the demand curve so our power plants don't get completely overwhelmed during rush hour. But taking it even further, we get to V2X, vehicle to everything. Now remember, EVs have massive batteries, anywhere from tens to hundreds of kilowatt hours of juice. V2X turns these cars into mobile, bidirectional generators capable of sending power back out. We're talking about cars that can supply your home during a power outage, keep large commercial buildings running, or even push electricity back into the main grid. They can even help with what's called black start operations, which is essentially using cars to help restart the entire power grid after a total blackout. I mean, think about how wild that is. Bringing all of this together, you get this multifaceted vehicle grid integration ecosystem. It's a huge puzzle. It requires high-power charging, seamless interoperability, ironclad cybersecurity, and advanced controls that link the physical car to the charger, all the way up to the massive data and planning systems run by the utility companies. Overcoming these cross-sector challenges to make this a reality is going to take a massive, highly coordinated decade of work. Part 4. The immediate charging bottleneck. What happens when adoption outpaces infrastructure? Okay, while that 10-year big picture roadmap is absolutely vital, cities are facing some very real immediate growing pains right now. EV adoption is heavily outpacing grid development in a lot of local areas. Let me give you a real-world example. A high-traffic location in a major metro area needed EV charging right away for both commercial fleets and the public, but they hit a massive roadblock. Getting a traditional utility connection would have taken months to permit, design, and literally trench the concrete. So instead of sitting around waiting, they bypassed the grid entirely and got the site live in under 1 week. Part 5. Going off-grid today. A micro-level solution by BeeCharged and L-Charge. To solve this exact grid bottleneck, companies like BeeCharged and L-Charge are actually partnering up to deploy localized off-grid fast charging. And it's pretty remarkable for a few reasons. First off, like we just talked about, it goes live in under a week with 0 utility delays. Second, it requires absolutely 0 upfront capital from the site host. It's a charging as a service model. Using Epic's OCPP 2.0.1 software, it easily handles payments via app or card and seamlessly serves both public drivers and commercial fleets with ultra-fast DC charging. And right now, it's powered by low-carbon fuels, which allows operators to bypass that year-long wait for a grid permit, cut diesel emissions from day one, and actually generate revenue right out of the gate. Part 6. Wiring our energy future and bridging the gap. These fast-paced, plug-and-play local solutions are providing an immediate, practical bridge for companies and cities that absolutely need to electrify right now. By combining these smart off-grid deployments today with the DOE's ambitious vehicle grid integration roadmap for tomorrow, we can achieve true nationwide transportation electrification. It's this incredible dual approach that helps mitigate climate change, enhances our energy security, and builds a much more resilient, equitable electric future for everyone. I want to leave you with this provocative thought from today's explainer. As you look ahead to your next car purchase, are you ready to see it not just as a way to get from point A to point B, but as a critical, mobile piece of our national power grid? How will the vehicle sitting in your driveway fundamentally change the way we power our world? Think about that as you watch the electric revolution unfold around us. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.